Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Grand Azavin radio broadcast. I'm your host, Max Becker. Tonight, oh what a fantastic show I have planned for you. So many rich environments to explore, so many abandoned places to imagine an alternate past for, and, most importantly, questions upon questions to be answered by yours truly. Here in Azavin, we claim no knowledge of what truly lies out there beyond our familiar dark blue horizon. Although what you and I both know all too well is that we have a limited time per night to explore, question, and admire our glorious city, as it stands forever in this endless ocean. What do we do? Why do we do it? Because we must, you see. Yes, we must. We must continue to honor Azavin as she has done so for us these long 100 years. And how do we do so? Well, one way is to tune in, sit back, relax, and thoroughly admire, appreciate, and enjoy the ingeniousness of the man in the radio. That comes to you but once, every night, here on the Grand Azavin radio broadcast. Good evening, listeners. Well, here we are once again, sitting together within the realm of transmission static and fading signals from surrounding cities far away, gazing out of our shuttered windows at that beautiful, all too familiar sight that we call home. You know, I was walking up Guild Street today en route to Zyla's, and simply couldn't shake the feeling that many get when going through that squalid place. You all know what I mean. That street is only a minor connector point to the upper levels, but on your way through you really do feel watched by those monstrously tall and elderly buildings. Those who have gone there know what I mean. They buckle and break with every jolt and shift of the city, still standing after many years of neglect and decay caused by nature and her alone. That place is shadowed all day until the freezing cold buildings are graced with a warm and welcome heat from the 2 o'clock sun. Each establishment is deformed in some way. Some of said places are shorter than others, due to collapsing in part, or simply tearing away from their partner when the plates of our city stretch and move. Although you have to admit it's a really fun place. Speaking of which, I got to the top of Guild Street and made a left turn to go to Zyla's, and we all know what she does on these hot days in summer, always in that chair in the same place outside of the cafe, drinking a cold cup of Earl Grey. I approached her and noticed just how much worse her clothes get every day. The moths that thrive in her house by day and flutter around the street lamps by night are certainly getting full bellies when visiting her wardrobes. Her thin, frail hand gave me a wave, and I decided to engage in a short chat. We spoke onwards for a while about many different things, the divers, the consistent amount of worry about the Eastern Pier, just general chit-chat, you know. We spoke onwards for a while until I had to go. I had to prepare for this show, you see. Did you know it only takes me 2 hours to correctly prepare my voice for this show every night? I know what you're thinking. Isn't 2 hours an extremely short time frame to correctly exercise one's voice? Shouldn't it take you at least 4? Well, yes, it is a rather short space of time, and I have actually only ever taken 3 hours at maximum since the beginning of this show. But if you wish to know my secrets, I'm afraid I can't tell you them. Because I have none. Sometimes you can't fathom a level of natural talent as it is so simply off the scale with professionalism. Anyway, enough talk of my incredibly amazing and most versatile voice, for we have but a limited time to convey to you the most crucial information of the day. Therefore, the first thing we're going to report on today is the weather. That's right, we're going with the weather first this time around. As you can tell, the waves and storms get far more erratic as the year progresses. For example, did you see what happened to Mr. Esquire's hat the other day? Oh, I don't mean to spread such news of our fellow citizens, but my goodness! Have you ever tried wearing such an outstanding hat while walking on the upper levels during a windy day? Oh, you know as well as I do that Mr. Esquire's hat is one of the most crucial aspects of the city. It brings in tourists from far and wide on steamers, airships, and those contraptions made by your insane grandfather in the attic. What a tragedy it was to see it crash with great heaviness onto the floor. Only doing so due to a gust of wind becoming a truly powerful antagonist when funneled down the Palace Pass on a blustery day. But anyway, aside from that heartbreaking tragedy, the weather. Short answer is, it's not looking too good. Upper levels D, E, and F are all getting hit by the eastern winds, while lower levels K and L are truly being swamped by the recent rough waves. All in all, please make sure that if you are based on these levels, that you naturally use your provided ADV systems to stop any leaking or permanent damage. This is not an alert as of yet, according to the Grand Palace, but they do urge you to simply be prepared as you have been taught to be. Now we're going to take a short interval to hear some words from major local inventors, and when we come back, I'll be answering the weekly question. Stay tuned. Because, well, really, you don't have any other choices.
Cotton picker, how many times have you found your job really painful because of sore and chapped hands? Now, at last, somebody has done something about this condition. Cotton Picker's Friend is on the market, a scientifically blended preparation manufactured especially for cotton picker's hands. When used daily, helps prevent chapping, promotes healing, and, in general, keeps your hands in tip-top condition for picking cotton.
Dr. Weir's mystery will be continued shortly. Say, by the way, Doctor, is mystery your sole pleasure?
Young man, what could be more pleasant than mystery?
Well, music, for instance. That's
Music, why, of course. Have you ever heard my clanking of chains?
Doctor, I'm afraid you've got me wrong. I mean the kind of music men hum or whistle when they feel on top of the world. And gentlemen, one of the many things that give you that tip-top feeling is the pleasure of being well-dressed. Perfect taste is a criterion, and in hats, there's nothing smarter than an Atom. From stem to stern, your Atom hat gives off that look of quality. You see quality in the carefully molded shape.
Good evening, listeners, and I bid you a warm welcome back to this theatre of information. We've just gone over the weather, and now we get to the part of the show that I truly look forward to every week. Out of the 7 shows I bring to you a week, the ones at this time are certainly the richest, as I collect and pick out a question from any one of you that arrives in my mailbox on Saturday. Here's our question of the week, sent to us by our master Timothy Porter down at the docks. You've probably seen him running around the lifeboat station once in a while. He's Thomas's boy. My father always has to go underneath the city. He helps get people off the legs if they get stuck when the water rises. Why do people go down there? Don't they know it's dangerous? Well, yes, Timothy, that is an excellent question, and it is indeed very dangerous. Why do people go down there? Well, I am no expert. I am simply a government's friend, so I can tell you about some of my excursions down there and think up some theories. It was a day in winter. A day certainly not to forget. The Friends of the Government were all invited the previous week to join some of the Safety Council on a trip down below the city, to take a look at some of the legs, to document and report their state of decay to the city leaders. It was a very exciting morning. 6 a.m., and all of Azavin were still resting, except for myself and a few others, of course. I woke up, quietly left my hotel room, and proceeded to stumble down the stairs. The entire building was dark. Of course, the generators don't switch on my level until 7:30, so as I arose after my fall, I looked out at the street from the hotel lobby. I knew I'd rely solely on the faint light coming through the blue, early morning sky, which the sun had yet to fully conquer. I knew where I was headed, but as I left that pitch-black lobby and stepped out onto the metal plates that make up our pavements, cold mist flowed through my legs and into the lobby behind me. I let the door slowly close. Suddenly, silence. The faint lapping of waves against our city could be heard as I made my way closer to the meetup point. The meetup point was by the monocle houses, which is where most council officials reside. I continued walking, until faint shadows in the distance could be seen. As I got closer, I saw that they were merely other members of the group. From there, we waited. We chatted for a while, most of us strangers to one another. And then a woman came out of one of the monocle houses. Tall, thin, wearing a white shirt and a light brown leather waistcoat. Myself and the others had no clue who she was until we saw her electric violet hair. And just by me saying that, I'm sure you know who it is. Violet West, leader of the Azavin Safety Council. We all then stood up and were prepped for the trip. We climbed down several ladders and walked through many forgotten passages to get below the city. As we strolled, many houses began to gain power. The vibration of the generators could be felt as usual, but we were closer to them now than ever before. Finally, the ghostly mist cleared, and we made it to the final ladder. It was a rusted and battered-looking thing, almost half a mile long, straight down. We all carefully began to climb down it, and finally reached the sea-level walkways. Propped up against the bottom of the ladder is a cork notice board with many signs urging those that are here to check the tide times and turn back if not unofficial. But our group of 5, we went forward, and as the mist finally cleared, there stood the colossal, rusted legs of Azavin. We kept going, walking underneath the city with caution of what may fall from above, because it's no playground down there. The entire place was rusted, from bottom to top. We were totally surrounded by older collapsed legs and floating debris from above. Pieces of metal and ruined boats. 9 o'clock came, and we had almost finished inspecting all of the legs. The water was beginning to overlap the walkways significantly now, and we had to make our way back before being completely cut off. Of course, we were in no danger of that happening, seeing as Violet had purposefully left the legs closest to our entrance point until last. But what came next would stir my emotions so quickly in opposite direction that I felt just sick standing there. For any new visitors tuning in tonight, all of the city's inhabitants know about what happens with the legs on windy days, and I was one of the lucky few to have experienced it and come back. You see, each pair of legs has two main supports that hold up the city, but to hold those together and to make them stronger, give them a bit of support, so on, there are a few other smaller supports in between. When the wind blows at just the right speed underneath the city, and the humidity is just right, the spaces between the legs whistle this beautiful tune, all of them in unison, singing wonderfully in a calming harmony, a harmony that we don't hear from above due to us being, well, so busy. Even on quiet days it's extremely faint, so you have to venture below to really enjoy it, and that's where I was standing. As Violet told us to hold on to the metal rods suspending the walkway, I looked north, and the calm water began to splash in our direction. Ripples, small, microscopic even, but then growing in size to be miniature waves. The whole city moaned and creaked and clanked, before suddenly there it is. As we held on to the supports, I looked at Violet. She looked captivated by this. Even after so many visits, I could see the thoughts running through her head, in her eyes. So much work to be done. So much care to give to this city, so we can continue to stroll along her. But once in a while, you're reminded of why you do what you do. And for Violet, this short period of time, no longer than a minute, was it. I turned back to our group, who had also been impressed by what they just heard, wide eyes and open-mouthed smiles on all of their faces. As we walked back, we finally came to the last set of legs. As water was beginning to flood the path behind us, Violet stood next to the danger notices plastered all over that board, as myself and a few others began to climb back up the ladder to the first level of the city. I was the last to go, trying to really savor the moment in case I could not return here. And as I began climbing, I noticed something stuck on one of the legs. It was flailing, flapping in the calm wind. A piece of cloth. I climbed a little higher until I could get a better look at it. The sun was now finally bright enough to see all of where we had previously been, and it revealed something that I still to this day think about. That cloth, that had seemed out of place in such an area of the city, was instead a torn and tattered grey shirt, hanging upside down from a sharp edge of a broken metal support beam. This shirt puts in perspective the risks people take to explore some parts of our city that should simply never be explored alone. Timothy. Your father does exceptional work, saving the lives that are put in danger by their owners in attempt to discover and explore. I do not believe the worst automatically, as I have great faith in this city, our leaders, and the volunteers such as you and your family, but it still stands as a reminder and wake-up call for myself and you listeners. So, to answer your question with personal experience and deduction, yes. Everyone knows how dangerous some places of Azavin can be, especially the lakes. But there are some who disregard that fact, and the many worn-out signs that sit down there on that notice board, rotting away but still clearly projecting their message for all to see. And they think that they won't be overcome. They think that, in the worst-case scenario, they can just hold on to the legs, try to climb up higher, and be saved by someone on duty. But if anything living here has taught anyone, it's that the water isn't kind. We don't know how high it will rise every day in this altered world, and neither do you. So, simply don't take the risk to hear the legs. Surely it can't be more valuable than your own life. My apologies for that rather long look at the dangers of the legs, but it is something that we must all remember. And what better a form of communication than this very show? We're going to take a short break to allow some cool down for the generators, and we'll be right back with the news in about 5 minutes. We'll see you then.
Every one of you undoubtedly has a headache or pain remedy that you swear by. But haven't you noticed that on some occasions it fails you? That there are times it does not seem to work? On these occasions, let me suggest that you try Anacin, for here is a remedy that I'm sure won't fail you. You'll find the fastest and most complete relief in Anacin you have ever experienced. The reason is simple. Anacin contains not one pain-soothing agent alone, but 4. One of which is in all probability the remedy you now customarily take to relieve pain. You can get Anacin at your druggist for a few cents. Your money back if you're not pleased. I'll spell the name. Anacin.
When cold and stress is getting down, just call on quinine. Relief and factors all around, so call on quinine. Live now for years and years.
Forget those seeds and sniffle fears.
When cold and stress is getting down, just call on quinine.
Inimitably effective.
Welcome back, dear listeners. After the rather long anecdote I just recalled and recited for you, I'm afraid we're nearing the end of our program for tonight. I hope many of you will agree, though, that such a vivid painting of our city's legs and dangers should be taken as advice and also appreciated in place of any first-hand experiences. While I did make it sound rather incredible, you simply must remember that there are many dark stories that have also been told. Records of missing boats, possible creatures that thrive in such dark places, and even phantoms. So, my apologies, explorers, but you simply do have a lot more against you down there than for you. But regardless, such a mysterious and almost dark tale is not how Max Becker ends the show tonight. No. A few headlines with a sprinkling of detail shall surely be enough for you to discuss and deliberate upon when the morning comes. As per the usual, I'll make sure to tell you as much as I can about the following stories whenever new details or developments arise. Now, on to the headlines. Firstly, congratulations to the Green family who have just opened up their new restaurant called the Green Hollow. You might have walked past this building before if you have access to levels C and D. It's that completely white brick building with the trees growing out of the roof. Yes, well, the owners have finally gutted the place and have opened it up as a brand new restaurant for Class 7, 8, and 9 citizens. Oh, I cannot wait to tuck into a jumbo fruit salad. Second on the list of developments is the ongoing discussion about the Eastern Pier. Not much to that other than Violet's house almost got set alight by a supporter gone rogue. Thankfully she wasn't home at the time of the event, but I can't imagine the group of citizens hoping to save the structure will be too pleased about that. I can tell we're going to have to focus more on this in the coming weeks, ladies and gentlemen. It looks to be a large point of order. And finally, the Grand Palace leaders have accepted the proposal to deal with the Undergrounders more intensely upon any further opposing action. How delightful! What a positive way to end the show tonight! Well, positive for us, that is. Thank you all once more for tuning in this evening, my dear listeners, and make sure you join us again tomorrow for the next Grand Azavin radio broadcast.